Hello.
Hi, everybody. Hello. Welcome to session number 2. We're super happy to join you again this week. We hope you've had a decent week and that you continue to find your way through all of this. Today's conversation is 5 things for you to consider as we work remotely. And once again, we have Dee Dee Henley with us. She'll be co-leading with me today. Myself, Shannon Olson, and then Carrie Craik, who's not on camera today, but she is here, and she's going to be working the question box. So that's where you can send us messages, and Carrie will make sure to pass them on to us. As people are continuing to sign on, hold on, there we go. So just as a reminder, this series is designed as a weekly structure for us to stay connected, to keep learning, and to stay grounded. And if you recall from our first session, we defined this distinction of a VUCA world, which is the volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous world that we're currently working through, leading through, partnering, being with our families through. And so it's really our intention that each week we provide you something that's going to support you in really moving forward and sustaining yourself through these times. So a few things to consider as we move through the next 30 minutes together. Please use the question window at any time. This is for a comment, for a question, for any feedback, anything you want to share with us, that's the place to put it. And if we ask you a question, take some time to answer it for yourself. You can either answer it, jot it down in your own thoughts, or feel free, as I said, to use a question window. And then between the sessions, just take one small action. We're not asking for heroics during this time. We're asking for little teeny movements that help you stay focused and grounded. And then we also love it when you just share your learning with others. So that's really the invitation. So as you recall, we introduced this idea of a check-in last week. And the check-in is just for you to get yourself here, to get your voice in the room, to get present to this conversation in front of you. So right now, if you could find the question box and take a moment and just drop us a line that allows you to check into this call. So it could be, did you practice something? Did you practice being a port in the storm? How did it go? Maybe you did nothing this week, and that's absolutely fine as well. You can check in around your current perceptions and thinking as we navigate these times, whatever you want to share with us, just to get yourself into the call. And Carrie will be watching for those coming in. As you're taking your time to comment and to think, we found this, I'm sure many of you have seen it if you've been on social media, but this idea of what really happens on Zoom meetings. So what we know is that people are on so many virtual calls right now, whether it's Zoom or Skype or Microsoft Teams. It is pretty constant between personal life and professional life. So I thought this was a hilarious way of seeing what really happens. So the good news is we actually expect you to have like a 2% attention span today. We don't expect anything more.
We have a little bar.
That's it. You retain 2% of what happens in the next 30 minutes, we're in good shape. And the rest of it, believe me, it's going to happen as well. So I had the insight today that I'm grateful for these weekly calls because it really has me like get dressed and take a shower and get present. So thank you. Thank you. Carrie, any comments coming in for check-in today?
Yes, we have a number coming in. One funny one says, I'm removing my cat from the keyboard constantly.
Yep, another one went off the diagram.
Yes, exactly. Focusing on reducing stress of others who work for me, working to make them feel valued despite not being able to see them in person. Another one is trying to find balance in this new normal, creating space for work, family, and self. Yeah. Another person saying LOL on the graph, they love it.
Good.
And then another one says, hi, I'm competing with 2 teenagers for my computer and I won, so I'm here.
Woo, victory, well done.
Good job.
Small wins, people, small wins. Yeah.
And let's just do 1 or 2 more. Allowing myself to feel fear and then let it go.
Great.
So,
that is remarkable. That is remarkable and inspired by that one. Really, really great. Beautiful. Okay, where are we at here? So, why isn't hold on a second, there we go. So as a reminder, these are the 7 topics we're going to be moving through together. Last week, Dee Dee introduced this idea of being a port in the storm. And then today we're going to look at this idea of collaboration and really 5 things to consider as you work remotely. For some of you on this call, this may sound familiar if you've either been part of the larger Power Collaboration program or if you've been on previous webinars. For today, I invite you just to listen newly and see what perhaps you hear differently given our current context and current challenges we're facing. And for the rest of you, we hope that these 5 things really help you in the months. So Dee Dee, let's see, do you want to go ahead and set up this sort of the context around what we're facing right now? Great.
Yeah,
thanks.
I mean, this isn't new to any of us, right? 3 out of 4 Americans are being asked to work from home, WFH, I think that's the new code. And of course, we have to come up with an acronym.
Always, yeah.
And you know, we know for sure that our team has worked virtually for the last 3 or 4 years. I can't remember when we stopped having a brick and mortar kind of office, but certainly we experienced all of this, you know, a loss of connection. What we noticed is that the culture of our organization was impacted. It's harder to transfer or maintain culture in an organization when you're not connected. Certainly, lots of our team members experience isolation and loneliness just working from their own, you know, home. Maybe they live alone and then work alone. Productivity dips, you know, part of what we sometimes let, or what we have become accustomed to is having the external buoy us up and give us a job. You know, I have a colleague who has never worked from home and has relied on the structure of his team at Microsoft to really, you know, engage his productivity, and it's what keeps him focused and it's what keeps him driving toward a finish line. So we may see dips. Depleted energy. I've been saying lately, I'm tired a lot. Like I don't know if it's the news, if it's I don't know what's happening, but I noticed that I'm more tired than I am in normal, or what I'll call than I've been in the past. And then scattered focus. You know, as we're working from home, we've got cats and teenagers and neighbors and, you know, all of the distractions of our homes. So certainly that's what we're seeing here.
That's great. Yeah, the depleted energy. I had a client say that he took for granted even the 5-minute walk between meetings and how useful it was, because now it's just call after call after call after call.
Right.
So he's just watching how exhausting it is just to be in a steady stream of conversations.
Yeah.
Great. So why do we need collaboration now? Dee Dee?
So collaboration, we've always believed that it's important. We think it's the tool, the skill that each one of us needs to be at work on actively. We built out this program about 12 years ago, 12 to 14 years ago, and have been actively training ourselves and our clients in collaboration. We believe that the challenges that face us require us more than ever to be working together. None of us is as smart as all of us. We need each other to be accountable. We need community. We need better ideas. And certainly we need to be producing breakthroughs or engaging bigger thinking together than what we may have access to on our own. So for us, this is the essential skill set of this time. More appropriate now than ever.
That's great. Yep. Do you want me to speak to this one? I can't see the slide number, so I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be here, but I can speak to this one.
Yeah,
Okay, great. So here's a way to kind of think about this work as we move through it. So this is from Peter Senge's Building a Learning Organization. He's one of our favorite thought leaders. I highly recommend you look him up. We're going to be referencing some of his other work as well later on in the series. And really what he looks at is there's 3 places that we can begin when we start to look at how to cause change and impact and work together. And what he often says that we want that people start on that outside ring, which is data, products, and services. So an example of that is Zoom is a product or a service that can help us get through this, or GoToWebinar, Skype, or Teams. This is a product that'll help us. The next layer in is looking at structures and rules and processes, such as we're going to make sure to check in once a week as a team, or, you know, what's our promises that we're going to make to each other as we work virtually. So that's the next layer down. At the core of it, though, which is where our work starts from and where Peter Senge really starts from, is looking at how we think, interact, and take action. So these 5 things that we're about to present to you are really from the spirit of that, which is how do we as the people who have to implement the structures and play by the rules and use all the products and services, how do we actually think and interact with one another? So that's the way I'd like you to look at this today, is it's really the human behavior that's at the center of all of it. And I'd also like you to listen to these 5 ideas through the context of your work, of course. How do we apply these at work? And feel free to look at how do you apply them at home right now, because right now there is no one clear line anymore. And then on a larger context, look at how we as a globe and a planet and the world are starting to navigate this ordeal together through these 5 frameworks. Great. Anything you want to add to that, Dee Dee?
All I want to say is, as a leader, if you are a leader on this webinar and listening through that framework, how do you think interact and take action is more important than ever? Because people will watch, they are watching you to see how you respond. Also, we know from our last webinar that your brainwave frequency, kind of how you think, how your brain is working, is contagious. So calming yourself down, getting yourself grounded, watching your thoughts, sort of generating or bringing something beyond just kind of an automaticity is super important right now. So that's what I would add.
Great, beautiful.
Okay.
So as I mentioned, I'll just touch on this real quickly. We're going to be introducing what's called the 5 elements of collaboration. And these are 5 things for you as a leader or a family member or a team member, any context you're in, for you to pay attention to. They are 5 things that will help you move through this ordeal together. Because really, as Dee Dee said, now more than ever, we need to be turning toward each other and leaning into and actually accessing the wisdom and the strength of the collective right now. So here's 5 ideas for that. And Dee Dee, why don't you go ahead and take the first one?
Sure. So element number 1, develop trust and respect. We know that you really can't collaborate with others unless you have worked toward creating more trust and respect. That doesn't mean you have to like each other. It does mean you have to trust and respect one another. So this is, I think, one of the most essential elements when we're trying to work virtually, because you'll find out where there are breakdowns in relationships. So in order to increase trust, we say, I heard this from Patrick Lencioni. He said, trust doesn't take time, it takes courage. And so how can you share yourself even more so that people see who you are? And especially in a virtual context, it's a little bit awkward for some of us. We're not used to seeing ourselves on camera. I've had to figure out on Zoom calls how to hide my own self, because I don't want to see myself. I just want to be in a conversation without paying attention to me. I don't want my focus to be on that. So in a virtual container, how do we increase trust and respect for one another? How do we communicate authentically? How do we maybe have some hard conversations in a virtual container? So, we're on our team, we're trying to reach out even more. We're doing weekly calls that are optional. People can show up, but we just want to see one another and get connected or stay connected. So this is one you really are going to have to work on to maintain a level of trust and respect while we're all working virtually. Anything you want to add, Shannon, to that one?
No, it was perfect. It was great. Okay. Yeah. And feel free, if you have comments or questions, feel free to drop them in if you need to. So the second one is holding a shared compelling purpose. So, all of us right now are engaged in what I call a compelling purpose, which is really stopping the spread of the coronavirus, saving lives, protecting our health systems. And it's a compelling purpose, so much so that we're willing to drop how we've done everything and figure it out newly. That's a collective, shared compelling purpose right now. The invitation is for you to look at your teams and all the systems you're working in and begin to name that on a smaller scale as well. So what's the purpose of your team right now for the first 30 or 60 days as you work through this together? And a compelling purpose is something that energizes you, that motivates you, that has you go above and beyond what you would normally do on behalf of the outcome that you're working toward. And you're seeing it right now. I mean, in many ways, it's quite inspiring what's happening on a global scale, that people are dropping into line the best they know how and figuring out how to do this. And we also know that when teams do that in the workplace, they produce extraordinary results as well. So it's really the idea of naming it. And it can be something as simple as, that we're all healthy and sane and steady during this time, all the way to a larger, more grandiose purpose around, saving lives or creating the next vaccine, whatever it is, and everything in between. So it's whatever feels right for your team. There is no right or wrong compelling purpose. It's just whatever has your team stay connected and engaged and energized by why they're working. So the key is to remind each other of this often, to return yourself to it, to remind yourself, this is why I'm working as hard as I am, because it matters so much on behalf of this. So that's the work of leaders around number 2. Dee Dee, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I want to add, somebody sent me the Harvard Business Review article on grief last week. And I love that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she had the 5 stages of grief: shock, anger, denial, bargaining, and acceptance. And they've added a 6th to it called meaning. I love that, because in the midst of what may be collective grief over whatever we're grieving, maybe lives, maybe loss of freedom, maybe loss of connection, we have to find meaning. And so for me, this is in line with a compelling purpose. As a leader, you have to bring the meaning to people when they've lost it. So how do you connect people to meaning? Lately, my meaning and purpose has been to be one of the helpers. I've heard this phrase, look for the helpers. My meaning in this is to be a helper. If that means just washing my hands and staying at home, good, I can do that. I can be one of the helpers, but it can be that simple. And as you said, Shannon, that complex, if you think about a larger purpose.
Great, perfect. Thank you for that. That's sweet. And go ahead, keep going, Dee Dee, with increasing your competence.
So increasing your competence, it is better to collaborate with people who have skill in a whole bunch of different domains. We think about 4 domains. We think about physical competence, intellectual competence, emotional competence, and spiritual competence. And the more competent your collaborators are, actually the better it is to collaborate. So all there is for you to worry about is your own competence for now. Physically, we think about your physical competence has to do with take good care of yourself, like be well, eat, drink, get some exercise, get some fresh air. I love this, good hygiene, take a shower. I mean, what?
That's right.
But physically,
be well.
It's just be well, right? Intellectually, it's take good care of your intellect. Allow your mind to rest. Don't be forcing. I have a dear friend who said she's working 12-hour days right now. And it's just too much. Intellectually, you can't, the brain doesn't work like that. So how do you insert some rest periods? How do you insert some way for your mind to stop engaging and so you can stay well intellectually? Emotionally, as Shannon said, all emotions are normal at this time. Make room for them, have some compassion for yourself. If you can, be around people who are lighthearted so that you can have some levity and maybe a laugh, but take good care of your emotional self. And then finally, back to what we said just in the previous slide, spiritually, we don't think about the spiritual competence as religion. It's more like staying connected to what has heart and meaning. So again, it's a little bit like our compelling purpose. How can you be one of the helpers? What grounds you and gives you a sense of being connected to something larger here?
That's great. And I would just add, as you're working virtually with your team, we have a tendency in the workplace to pay attention to the intellect. We want to know what people are thinking and doing and producing almost from the neck up. And the stretch and what works in phenomenal teams is when all of these are being tended to, that when we're checking in with each other about all of these, and now more than ever, there's an opportunity to do that. So make room for this with your virtuals, check in on all of it. We need to know that people are physically healthy and their minds are clear, and that emotionally we want to know where they're at. and we want to know that their heart is in it. And so it's a good use of your time to start paying attention to the whole person right now, not just what's neck and up.
Yeah.
It's really the invitation.
Yeah.
So the next one is this idea of building strength through breakdown. This is a huge conversation. We used to, what was the name of this session before? We used to call it
building strength through failure.
Through failure. And what we noticed is that nobody wanted to come to this conversation. Nobody showed up for a conversation about failure. So then we called it breakdown, and just, people are more intrigued. But really, what's so is that as we continue to work in highly collaborative ways, we're going to have more and more breakdowns. We just are. There's going to be more thinking, more dynamics, more opportunity to test and to iterate and to try things out. And with that, there's going to come a lot of failures and a lot of breakdowns. Especially as we're navigating all this working at home and working with families in the house, and there's going to be breakdown after breakdown after breakdown. Highly collaborative teams, whether they're virtual or in person or global, it doesn't matter. They know how to fail really fast. They have the courage and the bravery to kind of name what's not working and to put in quick corrections that get everybody back on course again to the purpose. So that's the game, is how do we allow room for it, be generous for it, that we be willing to suspend our judgments and our blame and our opinions about whose fault it might be, and say, okay, that happened. What's the correction? What's needed now on behalf of really our compelling purpose that we're working toward right now?
Yeah.
So that's the two sort of nuggets for you to think about right now, is just, how can I call it quickly? How can we recover quickly? And how do we get back reoriented to our purpose versus who there is to blame or point fingers at right now?
Yeah.
Dee Dee, anything you want to add on to that one?
Yeah, I think, boy, back to our brain science. So first of all, the brain loves the novel and the new. It likes new. However, with the new comes mistakes. So I'm thinking about, my husband and I were on a flight a week ago today.
Yeah.
And before we got on the flight, he gave me very specific instructions. Do not touch anything on, in the seat, right? We wiped it all down, and okay, great. We had gloves on and we had kind of makeshift masks on. And I sit down in the seat and I'm really careful for about 5 minutes. And then I totally forget. And I reach up and I grab the magazine out of the right, how it's right in the back of the seat.
Yeah.
And he says, Dee Dee, and I just forgot. I just made a mistake. So, how fast, and then I kind of felt bad, but how fast can you recover from a mistake? Know that it was just a mistake. So can you bring compassion to yourself first, but then also compassion for others? None of us knows how to do this thing called social distancing and virtual working and not touching things. I notice I touch my face all the time when I'm on Zoom. I'm like holding my face, and so we're learning. And the brain likes to learn, but as soon as you judge yourself or are harsh with yourself or others, you will shut down learning. So that's essential. In order to keep learning through breakdown, you have to suspend judgment. You can't be hard on yourself or others. So I think that's the takeaway here from that one.
Yeah. And I would also say that the amount of time that you spend on blaming and judging and opinionating on this thing called breakdown or failure is energy taken away from returning back to what's the big idea about the work you're all creating together. So I've watched phenomenal teams, man. They have huge breakdowns and they get together for 15 minutes and they're right back on track again. Because their orientation is to a bigger thing than whose fault is this right now. Great.
That's
beautiful.
great.
All right.
Great.
The last one.
Our favorite.
We love this one. Yeah. You love it. Go for it, Dee Dee. Let her rip. You can point out these beautiful flowers behind me.
We sent flowers to our team members yesterday just to brighten their day. There's Shannon's behind her.
Great. It was great.
The power of appreciation really is one of our favorites. We learned from Warren Bennis years ago that one of the fastest ways to re-energize a team of collaborators is to engage appreciation, to notice everything that's good, to notice everything that's brilliant and working, everything you're grateful for. Keep your focus on all of that. And, we had a team call yesterday, and I don't know, 12 people or so showed up for it. And I got so present to the preciousness of the people on our team. I was moved by how much I love them and how grateful I am for our team. And so can you let yourself move away from anxiety, move away from fear, move away from, fretting, and really move deeply into what's beautiful? And how do I acknowledge these amazing human beings that keep showing up and keep doing what they do and look for the gold? So this is a practice, Shannon, I think last time you offered, a morning practice before you get out of bed is to think about what you appreciate or what you're grateful for. That is a wonderful way for you to start your day and end your day, by the way. And so make it a practice to really keep your attention on what's good and what's beautiful. Yeah. What would you add, Shannon?
Well, I hear often when we introduce this idea of sort of like, why would we appreciate people for doing their jobs? Like they get a paycheck. I hear that a lot. Like their paycheck is their appreciation. For some, yes. And for others, they do need to know that you are seeing what they're doing and what they're producing and what they have uniquely brought to your team. So, going out and whether it's flowers or writing a note or verbally telling them, I see you and I know exactly what you did this week to make it remarkable is worth the time. It's an energy boost. It's a productivity boost. Yeah. It's a free investment on your part that the return is high. So this may sound light, but it's probably one of the most powerful and most productive tools that we could use that we don't. And so, really, if I would take on any of these 5 over the next 30 days, it'd probably be this one right now that we keep, as Dee Dee said, looking every day for what are the 5 things that went remarkably well today that I want to call out.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to dig deep, in all fairness. Sometimes you really have to be like, so let's see my internet work today. Sometimes you really have to dig. But they're there. They're always there. They're always there. That's great. Okay, good.
This is a great practice also in your families. People are this working and living together 24/7 is a stretch for many families. So have your dinner conversation be the 5 things that you appreciated about your day. I mean, that would transform what happens at dinner.
Yes, it's true. It's so true. When we pull it off, it's a good dinner to pause and to think about what we did well. That's beautiful. So quick recap. So here's some options that you can take away from this with your virtual teams, with your families, and even around your perspective of, I'd say, the larger challenge that we're all moving through on a global scale right now is, how do you up your ability to share more about yourself and to listen more? How do you go about defining a greater purpose for you, your family, your work team, your virtual team, whatever it is, but naming, here's what we're working toward over the next 30, 60, 90 days collectively. Pay attention to the whole person at work. As Dee Dee said, you put yourself in that seat first. Are you tending to all of those 4 domains? And then how do you ensure that the rest of your teammates are being well tended to as well? Fail fast. So the game right now is breakdowns will happen. Name it, call it, forgive it, recover, put the new in place and move forward as quickly as possible. And then the idea of 5 appreciations a day. This practice of 5 appreciations a day will rewire your brain. You will see things that you normally would miss. So it's really, really well worth your time. Good. Anything else, Dee Dee, as we wrap up?
No, I love it that you're on this call with us. When we got off the call last time, I thought I want to write each of you a personal thank you note, just to thank you for showing up. I mean, I'm so honored that you're listening and that you find value in what we offer. We're humbled by that. And I was like, I want to get the list and write each of you a thank you note. So this is my thank you note to you. Just, I love you. I'm grateful for you. Thanks for saying yes and showing up. And I hope you have a magnificent week as we go forward. We'll get to see you next week.
Yeah. So we'll see you all next week. And as Dee Dee said, take good care. Use any of the tools that we offered or use none, and that's okay as well. Whatever it takes this week, we're on for it. Feel free to reach out if you need anything in between now and next week, and be well, be good to each other. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Highlight of my week. Have a good one. Bye-bye.